Hello, and welcome back to the Airship 27 podcast. Believe it or not, episode number 27. That has to be a lucky number for us. Naturally, I'm one of your co-hosts, Captain Ron Fortier, and joining me as ever is...
Chief Engineer Rob Davis. Welcome,
Okay.
welcome to 27.
I know. We have some commercials that we read every single time we do a show, so go ahead and lay those out for us.
Yeah, we are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network. You can find every episode of the Airship 27 podcast on comicspodcast.com. Excuse me, I'll say it again. comicspodcast.com each month. You can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Comic Frontline, YouTube, and, of course, Zone4Podcast.com. End of commercial.
There you go. Gotta pay them bills, as Sparky would say.
Right.
Oh, I don't know about you, but man, I am getting wiped out here. With us doing Windy City, you doing Planet Comic Con, me doing Free Comic Book Day. Man, the convention season is on in full tilt, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I'm definitely worn out with two conventions back to back, and like you did. You did something very similar by having, well, it was 2 weeks apart for you, thankfully, but it was only a week apart for me. But I heard Free Comic Book Day there in Fort Collins was a blowout again.
Oh yeah, I mean, basically close to 2,400 people.
Wow.
2,400 people. They opened the doors at 9 o'clock in the morning, Rob. And Valerie and I, by 4:30, things were slowing down, so we started saying goodbye to some of our friends and packing up. I mean, she was tired. She just spent the whole day with me there. We had a great time. Met so many, friends and comic fans. But like I said, around 4:30, we said, hey, let's get home, clean up, and get some dinner. As we're walking out the store, and this is a big store. I'm talking about Griffin Games and Comics in Fort Collins. Rob, the line was still going on outside at 4:30. All right, I'm told that people came all the way up to 7 o'clock to where they had to shut the doors and close the store up.
Wow,
insane! It's absolutely insane. We love it. It is one of the coolest events the town has, and especially obviously for us comic folks, people. And aside from myself, a lot of our regular colleagues in our little get-together comic group always are present to support these things. And like I said, we have a great time. I mean, during the course of the day, not only, like I said, meeting new people, and that's always fun to meet new people who've never been in a comic shop, and you can see the surprise and awe when they look around at all the stuff that's available. But we also have, regulars. There's this one guy, Rob, that literally drives 4 hours every year to come down to this show.
Wow. Where's he driving in from?
The southern Colorado.
Oh, wow. So it's down, what is it, Colorado Springs? Is that on the south side?
General area.
Yeah, okay.
And they have their own comic shops. I mean, we have people coming in from as far south as Colorado Springs. We have people coming in from Wyoming to the north of us. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. And we got to tip our hats to Sherman and Leanna Sanders, the owners and proprietors of the shop, who make it a blowout every year because they make it fun. They advertise, and the people just absolutely love it. Like I said, it turns out to be one of those annual events that all of us look forward to big time. And this year again proved to be absolutely no exception at all. So it was a lot of fun.
Okay, well, I got you started out of order. We should probably go back and talk about the first convention, which was Windy City. So you had something here about you want to read that, or you want me to take that?
No, you go ahead and take
okay.
Our looking back on Windy City.
We're looking in the rearview mirror here. So Windy City Pulp and Paper Con 2017. Once again, Airship 27 was part of the fun at this year's Windy City Pulp Show. And as ever, we got to see old friends once again and meet some new ones along the way. We've been doing this show for 9 years now. 9 years. And by now we've gotten to know many of our regular fans, which is why it was also clear to us that several were missing at this show. and that was a cause for concern on our parts, and we truly hope those not in attendance are doing well and that we will see them again next year. I know there were, I noticed at least 2, and there may have been like 3 or more that weren't there this year that have always been there in years past.
Right, and then you and I talked about this when we left the show, about, again, this becomes such a routine for you and me, and you do get to recognize people, even if you get a little forgetful of names. You recognize people, you recognize their faces, the fun conversations you have with them about this book or that movie or whatnot, and there are a handful that, again, you and I recognize as regulars that we expect to see every single year we're at the show. And as you said, it was notable that at least 2 that you and I talked about weren't at the show. And, I think it's just human nature, Rob, that both of us found ourselves maybe a little concerned. And we really hope that, maybe it was other family obligations or conflicting schedules that kept them from attending. And with fingers crossed, we'll see them again next year. Yeah,
that's the hope anyway. Yeah, but because none of us are spring chickens anymore. So illness sneaks up on us and lays us down, and sometimes we don't get up, and sometimes we do. Hopefully, we keep getting up. You and I are both examples of getting into fistfights with some bad news from the doctor and ending up either knocking it out or at least knocking it down and back away from us. So, yeah.
So again,
we're hoping that's what's happened.
To those missing souls, we wish them well. We hope they're fine. And again, like we said, that's all we can do. His fingers crossed that they'll rejoin us again next year.
Absolutely.
Okay, so hey, on the Friday night of every Windy City Pulp and Paper show, we hold the Pulp Factory Awards.
Yep.
And so I'm gonna read the little heading here, and I'll let you go ahead and do the awards if you want.
Okay, we can do that. That sounds good.
Yeah. All right, so once again, we had the fun, and it is fun, a lot of fun, in honor of hosting the annual Pulp Factory Awards, recognizing the best in new pulp fiction from the year previous, that being 2016. Several of the winners were on hand to accept their awards this year, which made it even more fun for us, okay? And without further ado, here is the list of winners. Take it, Rob.
Okay. Best Pulp Novel went to Van Plexico for Sentinels, Volume 9, Dark Crusade from White Rocket Books. Best Short Story went to David Michelini for Lord Pemberton's Adjustment Service, which appeared in Pro Se Productions' Singularity, Rise of the Posthumans. Best Pulp Cover went to Michael Kaluta for Towers of Metropolis from Airship 27 Productions. Best Interior Illustrations went to Chris Kohler. I believe that's right. Chris Kohler?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay,
yes, it is.
Good. I pronounced them all right so far.
Yeah.
Well, wonders never cease. For Sentinels, Volume 9, Dark Crusade. And Best Pulp Anthology, Singularity, Rise of the Posthumans, from Pro Se and edited by Jamie Ramos.
I think this is the first year we've had that many recipients on hand.
Yeah,
I mean we had 3 of the 5 there.
Yep, Van, Jamie, and David Michelini, all three there. Yeah,
and again, like I said, that really was a joy for us in doing the presentation. And we do understand, obviously, that everybody can't get to the show or whatever. So in the past, we've had proxies on hand to pick up awards from those people who couldn't attend and get their awards in person. But this year, like I said, the show was equally fun because we had the recipients there. And I was particularly touched that Jamie Ramos, our good friend, his wife and son were on hand. and he was rightfully proud, okay, when receiving the award and I handing it off to him, and I could see his wife and son. And the look on their face was priceless. So
I think he even commented, if I remember correctly, about how he knew he was getting it. He'd been told, or it had an inkling. I don't remember whether he knew for sure or not, but he had a pretty good idea he was going to get it. But he said it was even more surprising or maybe that was Van. But anyway, somebody who received it, because Van did know. He knew he was getting the award, but he said it still kind of sends a chill up your spine when you actually hear your name called in association with the award that you've won. So that's always fun to see the look on their faces when they find out they've won.
And it's hopefully like we try to make it, Rob, a shot in the arm to the entire new pulp community. So hey, on a note, again, while on the subject, you and I really need to congratulate our own Grant Sparky Fowler.
Yes.
Who was one of the writers in the winning anthology book, Singularity, Rise of the Posthumans.
Absolutely.
Brant's story was called The Eye of the Mind. So, hey, way to go, Brant. Congratulations. And, Rob, I had a copy of that book. I reviewed it. All the stories were great. It deserved the award. And Brant also did a great job. So now we got to twist his arm to get him to do something for Airship 27,
Yeah, well, of course.
All right. So what's next on the list here,
Well, let's see. It says, making new friends. You want me to go ahead?
Yep.
All right. Making new friends. Since beginning our podcast, we've made lots of new friends. Many who came by our tables to say hi, which was really gratifying. As many of you know, another of our online pals is Bob Dice, who is a huge fan of men's adventure magazines, and through him, Ron became acquainted with several other similar sites on Facebook, including the gang who recall men's adventure paperbacks of the 70s. So it was really great when two members of that group, Tom Simon and Larry Eischen, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly, stopped by to say hi at the con. Larry went so far as to buy Ron's latest Captain Hazard novel, Custer's Ghost, and give it a 5-star review on Amazon. Yay! Saying he was going... Yeah, absolutely, thank you. Saying he was going to look at more new pulp titles in the future. Yay again! What a great testimony.
Right. Again, all these groups, and we really need to thank Bob Dice, who made us familiar with that evolution of pulp, that cousin of pulp, if you want, out there, and the people who celebrate that and are hobbyists and collectors of those MAMs, they call them, right? The acronyms for men's adventure magazines. But again, having these people branch out, and now they're like even new pulp, Rob. You've got different avenues. So now you got guys collecting paperback pulps of the 1970s, and that's what this group was all about. And I recognized their name tags when they walked by. So we called them over to the table, and we got into these really great discussions. And Larry was kind enough to buy Captain Hazard, and then, like I said, his review was phenomenal. The thing I liked about his review, Bob, is he mentioned the fact that up until this point, he'd been a little hesitant about the whole new pulp thing, as most, collectors of the old stuff are. And so Here we go. My book was his introduction to new pulp, and I'm very happy with the fact that not only did he enjoy it, but now he realizes what it is that we do, and is going to be looking at more new pulp titles to buy and enjoy. So major thumbs up.
A new convert.
Amen. Now, what we got to do, though. Both you and I, during the course of that weekend, met at least 3, 4 maybe, people came over to our table and started browsing, picking up stuff to buy, and you and I would make some kind of a comment and referral to that particular book or title. We'd get these matter-of-fact responses. Oh, yeah, I know. You said that on your podcast. Oh, yeah, I know. I heard that on your podcast. That kept happening all weekend. So, hey, out there, thank you.
They are listening. Wow.
Yeah, that, like we said in the agenda and the notes you just read off, that is really gratifying, okay? I mean, sincerely. Because, when Rob and I started the show a little over a year ago, it was a case of, is anybody out there? Is anybody really listening? When you do podcasts, you get numbers, and Brant keeps tabs of those numbers, and I'm very happy to say ours are growing and continue to grow. But it's a different thing altogether when you meet total strangers who are becoming now new friends, all right, who look at you and just smile and say, oh, yeah, I listen to your show. I listen to your show. We truly, truly appreciate the fact that you take that hour once a month to join me and Rob, and thank you so much for that.
Yep, very much. Yep, absolutely. It was amazing. Just some of them just picked up a certain book and went, yeah, I'll take this one. And then come to find out it's because they'd heard us talk about it on the podcast. So, yeah, that was very, very gratifying.
Oh, my God. Yeah. All right. Hey, I'm gonna take the next item here.
Okay.
Which we've labeled Meeting a Pulp Legend.
Oh, yeah.
Now, during the 60s and 70s, as most of you know by now, pulp writers gravitated to either those men's adventure magazines or the paperback racks. Among the most prolific was a writer named Len Levinson, who in his career penned 85 novels, from private eye books to horror to war series. Len came to the show this year and was a member of one of our new Pulp Sunday panels, moderated by Tommy Hancock, where he talked about his amazing career as a pulp writer. At 82, Len is still going strong, and it was a pure joy for all of us to get to meet and know him. Remarkable, wasn't it, Rob?
Well, I didn't get to spend much time with him. He was getting pretty much monopolized by everyone else. But but yeah, I got to watch him as he was talking to you and Tommy, and yeah, and I didn't know all this stuff about how many books he'd written, and to be honest, those books are not the kind of books that I was reading at that time. I was heavily into science fiction and reading some of the classic science fiction, some of the newer stuff from the 60s and 70s, as well as going back and reading Tarzan and The Shadow and I'm Doc Savage. I'll get it out here in a minute. Doc Savage. Blah, 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 blah. But yeah. But anyway, yes, yeah. So, but wow. I mean, to listen to 85 novels and in all these different genres, no less. That's pretty impressive.
Right. It was remarkable because what Len did, and God bless him, Len only came to the show Sunday. Right. And the way this all came about, Rob, was that Doug Ellis, one of the promoters, along with John Gunnison, had notified me a good month before the show that Len was coming and introduced me online to who he was. So I had gone and Googled him, you know what I mean, and did my homework, and it blew me away. So here comes, Sunday, and I was hosting the first panel, and I'm standing there introducing the panelists, made up of, Perry Constantine, Deborah Brown, and Gene Moyers. And as I'm doing that, I see this little man with a hat on, like a little fedora, sitting in the back aisle. And so, not using a mic, I never use a mic when I do panels because I have a loud enough voice, as some people will tell you. And so I just stand in front of the podiums and talk with the panelists, and we get conversations going. So Len was sitting like 2 or 3 seats back, and as the discussion got going, he literally just got up and walked and sat in the front row, right in front of us. And at that particular time, we hadn't introduced each other, but I knew who he was. I'd seen pictures of him. So I have to tell you, it was slightly intimidating, if you know what I mean, all right? Here's this really, professional pulp writer who'd done it all, my friend, okay? I guess at one time he worked in New York in marketing and advertising. He has a huge history of working in publishing all his life. And then again, as we know, being this pulp writer and producing this volume of work. And so there he is sitting there, and he listens to our entire hour-long talk about new pulp, what it is and where it's going. And then when it was done, I ended the panel a good 5 minutes early so that our guys could leave and Tommy's crew could come in, of which Len was going to be a part of. So during this transition, I turn around and Len's standing right in front of me and sticks out his hand and introduces himself, and we start talking, and it's the first time we meet. And the twinkle in his eye, Rob, he was so taken by the whole new pulp thing, all right? it blew him away. He had no idea that this kind of stuff was still going on, all right? And not only going on, but there were more and more, young people getting into it and young writers continuing to write pulp. You could see it was like a shot in the arm to the guy, right? And so there we are standing there, and for people who've never met Len, he's a little man, and he's got this little white goatee, very dapper fellow. And as we're standing there talking, right, I couldn't help it, Ron. I turned around, and Rob, and I asked him how old he was. And he looks at me and goes, 82. And as you know, I turned 70 last November. So, I mean, here I am with this guy who's so full of energy, still going strong, right? And later he came back to the floor, as you saw, and talked to Gordon Demowski, talked to Gene Moyers. I mean, he just wanted to immerse himself with all of our gang, and Tommy and everybody else, that by the time I came home, that was one of the highlights of that weekend for me, of meeting Len and getting to know him. And we've since exchanged a few emails. And I got home, and I told Valerie, my wife, I said, you know what? I just met the guy who I want to be when I grow up. It's just, it was such a breath of fresh air for me, my friend, because, it's like you have these benchmarks as we age in life. And it's a trick not to fall into that temptation, right, Rob, as we're talking about aging. And ultimately, it just becomes what it is. It's just a number.
It's just a number. Yeah, he's got 20 years on me.
There you go. See?
Yeah, and he's got 12 on you. So, but yeah, but hey, if he was still getting around pretty good, he was still sharp. I mean, I want to be that when I'm that age and older. I'm hoping.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
And I pray, hopefully, that this won't be the last time Len graces us with his presence at Windy City.
Now that he's been to one, the way you were talking, he's probably hooked. We'll probably see him again.
Well, like I said, I've already exchanged a couple emails with him over the last few weeks.
Good.
Him thanking us for being on the panel and talking about new pulp. So, yeah, we're going to stay in touch. And,
cool.
And if Doug doesn't do it, then I will give him a real heads up next year when it comes time for the show and the schedule.
Yeah, he needs to come at least for another day. Come on Saturday. Yeah. Sunday's kind of slow. Sunday morning is usually pretty good, though. But Saturday's the day to come. That's the day to come. Yep. So anyway.
Okay.
All right.
So we have a great Windy City show, as we always do. We want to again thank all our regular friends who showed up at the table, our colleagues, which was so much fun to get together. Wayne Reingold showed up after years of not being there.
Right.
We saw Van for the Friday night awards. It was such a fun show. And so thanks to everybody who showed up. And you know what? We keep saying this, Rob, on air and online, too. There are way too many of our pulp colleagues who have never been to this show. Bobby Nash, Sean Taylor, Derek Ferguson, Nancy Hansen. If you're listening to us right now, please, somehow or other, some year, work your schedule, but come and join us. It's too much fun, and we want you there with us.
Well, and some of those folks that are on the East Coast, hey, that Pulp Fest is moving closer to you. Start looking at that. It's in July. Start look at the dates in July. It's I think it's the last weekend in July, if I remember right. 27th comes to mind.
Yes.
And so those of you folks on the East Coast, Pittsburgh ain't that far. It's further for us than it is for you. So we're going to make it. So come see us in Pittsburgh. So anyway,
please. Okay, so we wrapped up Windy City, and as you said, you got a chance to go home and get 2 days of breathing room, maybe if you were lucky.
Yeah.
Repack your bags and head out to Planet Comic Con in Kansas City. So why don't you give us a little report on how that went?
Okay, well, we drove up on Friday morning. We got up at 5:30 and started out by about 6:15, 6:30. And we got into Kansas City about a little after 8 and started setting up. And looking around, in the last few years, the convention has gone from a small convention center on the south side of Kansas City. It's a pretty big building. and they had kind of outgrown that, so they went to Bartle Hall, which is in downtown Kansas City. And the first year, I think they had 2 or 2.5 sections of one floor. And there are like A, B, C, D. I think there's like 4 different sections. Wow. This year, they had the whole floor. They took the whole floor.
Oh,
now, from what I understand, they only added a small handful of vendors this year because they didn't want to overwhelm the sales, because there's only so many sales to go around, and you don't want to spread them too far. So they didn't add too many, but they added more aisle room. So on Saturday, I kept looking around, and I'm going, well, it doesn't look like it's as busy as normal. And my wife, Teresa, she punched me, and she says, the aisles are bigger, Rob. There's more room for them to move around. So, and I found out later that the numbers were up from the previous year. So the organizers were really happy. Chris Jackson and my good friend Kirk Critton are a couple of the organizers of the thing, and they were both very happy that the numbers were up this year. Now, I took along. I mentioned this probably, I think, in the last couple of podcasts, that I made up some new prints, color prints of the characters in the Avengers movies. And I was hoping to sell a bunch of those. Well, I sold a few. You know what I sold the most of? And this is one of the best shows I've had in a long time. You'll never guess what I sold the most of. Airship 27 books.
Really?
Yes.
Hot dog.
Yeah, I saw Airship. People are starting to realize that I bring Airship 27 books. Now, it's mostly the Sherlock Holmes ones and the other ones that I illustrate.
Yeah,
but I had a few others, and I have this one lady that comes every year, and she always looks for some odd Airship 27 book that she hopes to pick up. And this year, I brought everything with me. I didn't put everything on display, just the stuff I had illustrated. But she came by the table, and she told me she wanted a copy of the Daggermen. So I got into the box, and I dug out the Daggermen for her, and sold her a copy. So... And there were a few other things like that. I put out Towers of Metropolis. I had ordered some copies just so I'd hoped they'd come in by the time Windy City came around. They didn't. They came in afterwards. So I brought those along, and I actually put them out because I thought that Kaluta cover would get some interest, and somebody would pick that. And somebody bought 1 or 2 copies of that, and then there was my biggest sale item was paperbacks. So Airship 27 books. Now I sold some prints. I did a couple of drawings. Back in the old days, back in the 80s and the early 90s, that was how I made my money. Was doing a lot of sketches. Well, sketches have kind of fallen off because there's a lot of competition in Artist Alley now. So I usually do 2 or 3 for the weekend, maybe 1 a day, and I did 3 of them over the weekend. So that's about par. I was hoping to do more, and I was hoping to sell more of the prints. But I got a lot of interest in the prints, a lot of people looking at them. But I only sold a handful of those, but I sold a bunch of Airship 27 books. And it's one of the best shows, monetary-wise, I've had in quite a while, due in large part to the fact I brought along the Airship 27 books. So we're even getting the comic book fans looking at our books now.
Wow, I'm really hardened, I should say, to hear. I'm really happy to hear that, because obviously, you and I are going to be heading out, like you said, to Pittsburgh later, but I'm also doing a couple of other comic shows here in Colorado. Mm-hmm. I'm doing a big one next weekend, which I'll talk about at the end of the show, but... in late August, I'm going to be going to the Fort Collins regular Comic Con here, which gets bigger and bigger. And in the past, I've sold a few of my own titles there, like Captain Hazard and Brother Bones. And I'm definitely going to stock up on those again because of listening to what you're saying. And then at the end of summer, I'm at the major Rocky Mountain Con in Denver. And I sold 1 or 2 pulps at those particular shows. But again, I'm starting to rethink myself. If we end up having a good Pittsburgh showing And again, that's going to be a whole new audience for us being in that particular city. I may be sending you a big reorder to stock up my own inventory for when I do those 2 shows I mentioned. It's going to be interesting to see how that takes over. But it's nice to see a broadening amongst the comic fans themselves to looking at other things, besides comics as well. Like I said, I see that as nothing but really good news across the board.
Yeah, I had I had a few people come by and look at them and go, "Oh, are these graphic novels?" And I go, "No," and then I explained what they were. And a couple of them actually looked at them and went, "Wow, this is interesting." I said, "Well, flip it over, read the back cover, and that'll give you an idea of what's going on inside." I would talk them up a little bit, and then a few nibbles, and then I set the hook and reeled a couple in.
I'm proud of you, Ron.
I can do this without you, Ron. No, I'm always joking about how when we go to conventions that together, I usually just set Ron loose, and he talks everybody into buying books. But I've been doing this for a long time too. But I also know that if you get too many cooks into the broth, it doesn't work. So I usually let Ron do the sales pitch. Plus, you know more about pulp history than I do. I'm a late comer to being a pulp fan, so you know a lot more about the pulp history. And sometimes he'll come back from a panel. Ron will come back from a panel and he'll hear me talking to somebody. He goes, "You're using my stories." And I'm going, "Of course." Of course I am.
I made a comment. I was doing this past Saturday, Rob, the Free Comic Book Day.
Right.
All right, and oh God, that was funny. All right, but anyways, so when we left, right, we ran into, like I said, one of the owners, Leanna Sherman, and she pulled Valerie aside, because we were thanking her, and I went and talked to this artist friend of mine, but Leanna stopped and said to Valerie, she goes, "Ron's a fireball. She says, we're never going to do this show without, this Free Comic Book Day without him being here. He just gets everybody wound up, and everybody has a great time." So there you go.
I'm a little more laid back than that.
I told Val, I said, "I'm just a shy introvert." She goes, "Yeah, well, those days are long gone, buddy." I might have been that in my high school days, but hey, you adapt with the punches.
Well, yeah, and I don't know if we have talked about this on the podcast before, but I actually was a shy kid. I really was, and so at one point I had to learn how to be a salesman because I worked as a shoe salesman for like 5 years. Yep. So I had to learn how to talk to any and everyone. And come to find out, I was actually pretty good at it. I'm not the greatest salesman in the world, but I can do it. And come to find out that everybody's got that in them. An introvert can become an extrovert. Yeah, an extrovert has a hard time becoming an introvert.
It's impossible. You can't go the other way.
No, going the other way is not possible. No.
Right. Yeah, but you're right. That's the thing that I learned a long, long time ago. And again, our past experiences, buddy. Jobs we've had, situations we put ourselves in, something like that. And even if you're a shy introvert, hopefully, somebody even listening to this show, Rob, if you're that quiet kind of guy who doesn't put himself or herself out there in social situations, listen to me and Rob, okay? Because you can do that. You can train yourself to have some confidence to get out there and to meet people. And to be a little more outgoing, and believe me, the rewards are priceless. Okay.
And the only piece of advice I would say is anybody who gets up and does any kind of public speaking or anything like that, that the best thing for you to do is to remember that they're on your side. The people that you're talking to, and especially if you're public speaking, they're on your side. They want you to succeed until you do something really, really bad. So don't be stupid. But you get up there because they're gonna. If you make a silly mistake, just laugh about it, acknowledge it, and move on. Yep. Because they're going to support you.
I've taken classes in that, and what you're just stating is a tenet in what they teach people, and those courses. Exactly.
Yep. I learned it by experiment.
Our time is going to click away, and we have a little bit of stuff to still wrap up here. So
yeah, we better move on.
All right, well, I'm going to let you take this in the next section, which is basically what do we got coming out from Airship 27?
What's out now? Happily, we did have the first of the 2 new releases available at our tables at Windy City. On the first one, Mystery Men and Women Volume 4. The 4th in our anthology series that features brand new pulp heroes. This one had stories by Chris Bell, Joel Jenkins, Thomas Deja, and C. William Russett. Interior art by yours truly, and a wonderful cover by Zachary Bruner. And next was Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective Volume 9. The 9th volume in our best-selling series was another hit at Windy City, with 3 regular-length tales by Aaron Smith, Eric Franklin, and I.A. Watson, and 2 shorts by Fred Adams Jr. As usual, I handled the interior illustrations, but we had an Adam Shaw cover that it was just spectacular. And it stopped our fans in their tracks.
Yep.
And okay, so, and coming up next, we'll move on to that. Coming up next, if all goes well, we hope to finish work on the 3rd novel in Nancy Hansen's fun Pirate Queen series, Jezebel Johnston. This one is subtitled The Sea Witch and continues the adventures of the young lady whose courage and intelligence is making her a force to be reckoned with in the world of hardy buccaneers. As ever, once again, Rob Davis, that's me, provides the interior illustrations, and Denver-based artist Laura Givens has provided a truly stunning cover. With fingers crossed, Jezebel Johnston, Sea Witch, will be our next Airship 27 release. And I just finished illustration number 6 of 9 last night, so probably by the weekend I'll have all 9 of them done with some luck.
That's fantastic. And you know what? While we're on this subject, we also should definitely give a shout out to Nancy, who over the last month, underwent 2 very, very, serious eye surgery in both her eyes, cataract surgeries, and other little things done to both eyes. She was having a lot of issues with those over the years, and I'm very happy to report that both surgeries on both eyes were successful, that she is seeing now without her glasses. She posted a few blogs, Rob, this past week on how she's having to readapt habits, because as you know, because you and I wear glasses, one of the first things you do when you wake up in the morning is reach over and put your glasses on. You have them on the bedstand, you put them on.
Yeah.
And Nancy doesn't have to do that anymore.
So she's reaching around. Yeah.
She's still got the habit, and now realizing, for the first time in 40 some odd years, she says she doesn't need to wear her glasses. God bless her.
Yeah, I actually had an interesting thing happen to me. I used to wear glasses all the time. I had to have them to drive and to read. Well, something's happened to my eyes over the years, and I actually don't need them to drive anymore. A couple of years ago, I went in for I have to take, because I have high blood pressure, I have to get recertified every year. I have to have a physical, a Department of Transportation physical. And part of that is they do an eye exam. And they make you stand across the room, and you cover one eye, and you look at the chart, and you read the bottom line that you can read. Well, 2 or 3 years ago, I actually read like 2 or 3 lines up from the bottom without my glasses. And I went, wait a minute, when did this happen? So now I could pass. My vision is not perfect, but one eye's a little better than the other. But I can drive without glasses now. I can do most everything, but I do have to have readers. So I get the little magnifying readers. Right. In fact, I've got them on right now, so I can read the podcast agenda. But anyway, that's an aside. But Nancy had to go have the surgery done to do all that. But it's great. I welcome her to the club of only having to need reader glasses now. Yay!
Yeah. And just so you know, it hasn't. None of this has stopped her in the slightest, because one of her last postings on Facebook was she's already into Volume 4 of Jezebel Johnston.
Great, wonderful! Yeah. Can't wait. I enjoyed the heck out of this.
Any of our fans out there who haven't as yet picked up the first 2. They're available at Amazon, as all our titles are, in paperback and on Kindle. This is an ongoing series, and believe me, it is well worth your attention and support. If you like an old-fashioned, no frills pirate saga, this is it. Okay, this isn't Pirates of the Caribbean, people. There are no zombies and giant squids and whatever. Okay, Nancy did a phenomenal amount of pure research to get the time and period. All right, of these freebooters and buccaneers and their history, and amidst this world, okay, she creates one of the most endearing characters you're ever going to meet in Pulp Fiction, Jezebel Johnston. So if you're looking for something to read that's pure out old-fashioned adventure, please check out the Jezebel Johnston Pirates series from Airship 27.
I've read all of them, and they are lots of fun. They really are.
Yeah, they truly are. Okay. And so, now, another regular part of our show, thanks to our good friends Eric Franklin and Daniel Hustler, the producers of the new Brother Bones movie in production and actually moving ahead kind of quickly now as we get into the summer months. Rob and I spent almost 3 hours last week in a conference call discussing their Kickstarter funding campaign, which, as you're listening to the show, hopefully will be launching online in maybe another week and a half. But we did a lot of talking about some of the premiums that are going to be available to people who want to help support this project. So stay tuned for that. I am not going to steal their thunder. We'll wait till they get it up.
Well, and not everything's been decided on, but we had a number of things that we discussed and that they will most likely do. But there are a couple of other things that might get thrown into the mix yet. So
we're tweaking it, as we say.
Absolutely, yeah. There'll be some tweaks as we move along. Absolutely.
All right. So again, God bless Eric. Eric just yesterday sent me some updates that we can reveal to our fans and the public at large. So, as we did in the past, we'll switch off. Why don't you take item number 1, Rob?
All right. Updates for the Brother Bones movie from Eric Franklin, writer, director, co-producer. So, number 1, Hollywood veterans Bill Stromberg and John Morgan have signed on to do an original score for Brother Bones, the Undead Avenger. Now, we're not talking about just any old original score. This is not electronic music. This is an actual full-blown orchestral score. So, introduced to them by Ron Fortier, these two also wowed us with a demo CD that gave us the exact sound we were looking for. Fans and filmgoers can expect to hear a moody orchestra score that will take them on an emotional roller coaster.
Oh my God! I can't tell you how excited I am about this, Rob. Okay, I'm a personal friend with both these gentlemen. They're veteran Hollywood composers, music historians. All right, and they love those old movie scores. So when I put them all together in touch with each other, I think Eric and Bill had like a 2-hour phone conversation. And so, again, keeping in mind, folks, what's going to happen is once the rough cut of the film is finished, Bill and John are going to sit down and look at it and are going to compose, as Rob said, an entire score for the actual film. We're not taking snippets from anything else. This is original music composed, and then it will be performed by a full symphony orchestra. What that adds to the feeling and experience of seeing a film is unimaginable, and we're thrilled by it, as everybody is. Okay, item number 2. Casting will begin either in the 3rd week or end of May. We are looking to hold 2 days of auditions and may go longer if needed. Once the cast is finalized, we will start our online fundraising campaign, which is, again, what we talked, that will appear on Kickstarter, and we will let everybody know. All right, Rob, next.
Yeah, number 3. This kind of contradicts what I said earlier, but I think what I said is basically true. We have finalized the rewards for the fundraiser with Ron Fortier and Rob Davis. Like I said earlier, that for the most part they are but there's a couple of other things that'll probably get tweaked along the way. Fans,
well, let me give an example of that, Rob, so people will understand why we're not really trying to confuse them here. Okay,
right? Yeah, because that could be confusing.
I can state one thing, one premium that we know we're going to offer. Okay, and then people will understand why it's not finalized. Right?
Okay.
One of the premiums is going to be a set. Now listen to a set of 4 original Brother Bones prints, done by 4 of the leading graphic illustrators in America today. Now, the reason we're not giving out that information or finalizing it is because I'm in the process of recruiting these artists. I've already gotten 3 on board that we had off our major list of like top 10, 15 graphic illustrators, and I'm waiting now for word from the 4th. So again, that's the tweaking we're talking about.
Exactly.
We had agreed to do the 4 prints, but then one of us had to take that assignment and go make that happen. I'm happy to report I did. So there are other items like that we're all tweaking. I really believe, Rob, when people go to the Kickstarter page, I think we'd ended up, and again, this will probably change, but we'd ended up, 17 premiums?
17 or 18, I forget which. Many, but 17 or 18.
It's a nice package.
Yeah, really. So, okay, to get back to number 3 here, fans can consider it the ultimate Brother Bones package. The only thing missing is the undead Avenger himself showing up at your door. And we just somehow we just couldn't get him to do it. He says, I don't do personal appearances.
Yeah, I'm really happy with Eric and Daniel. They've really given this a lot of thought. And again, like I said, Daniel has taken some tutorials in fundraising and whatever. So hang in there, folks. Again, like I said, it's going to be a unique campaign, and we really hope you can help us out. Okay, item 4. Rob, right here, my amigo, was kind enough to provide a sketch for the outside of the bordello, which opens the film up. It's the opening scene. Now it has been recreated in 3D along with the rest of the street to give us a digital backlot of one of Cape Noir's seediest crime-filled streets. We do this as a cost-saving measure, for it would be difficult to block off an entire street in the first place, let alone make it look perfect for the 1930s setting. Rob, I'm still mind-boggled by what they can do with computers. I mean, you drew this, and now they're making it real.
Yeah, I actually, you sent me a bunch of different photos of different stuff to kind of create the look for the bordello, and I took elements from a couple of those photographs that you had sent me and kind of melded them together to make this kind of interesting-looking old building from that was probably early 1900s to 1930 era building. And when they sent us a still of the 3D thing that they have created, and the front of the buildings are almost exactly what I drew. It's pretty amazing that they took that and made it 3-dimensional, and so in other words, they can move it in space and change the camera angle on it, and they hadn't put all the grittiness into the scene yet, but it was still pretty amazing to see this pristine building, and then the glistening lights on the street, because it showed it as a night scene, the lighting effects in the computer generated image are just pretty amazing. They've just done a spectacular job.
They are. They're extremely talented. All right, you take number 5.
All right, number 5. We have secured a location for the Gridiron Saloon and the Bordello. The funny thing is, they are both in the same place. It was a happy accident. When Daniel and I went on a tour of the place, thinking it was just going to be used for the saloon, that they happened to have a lounge that looked exactly like we were hoping for the Bordello. We plan on filming there for 2 days and are excited to be using an authentic bar, speakeasy, from the 1920s in our film.
Now, you and I have both seen photos they've taken of both the bar itself,
yeah,
and the corresponding lounge behind it. and I'm going to fill in our listeners on this, okay? The place in Seattle, in case any of you are visiting before the film and you want to get a sneak peek before production even starts, the actual restaurant, bar and grill is called Rendezvous. It's in downtown Seattle. It was originally built, I believe, in 1926, Rob. Then what happened was, in 1934, it was refurbished. And in doing so, they refurbished it in the 1930s Art Deco style. So when Eric and Daniel walked in and saw the bar, it was totally the gridiron from Cape Noir in my stories. Now, they're talking to the owner and proprietors when they get invited to go into the back room to see the other rooms in the restaurant. They walk into this lounge area, Rob, and the decor is all red crushed velvet sofas and couches. All right.
Yeah, bright red, not just red, but bright red.
I believe Eric said they had bought this stuff from an old opera house that was being destroyed. So, of course, that gawkiness was perfect for the bordello scene. And you know what? I'm going to give away something else, too, that got said during our conference. And I hope Daniel doesn't mind, but our listeners are going to love this one, Rob, all right? Apparently, there is an actual burlesque troupe in the Seattle area that performs there quite often. And by that, I mean, and I'm sure you get it, they do, this really serious musical comedy performance troupe where they try to recreate the old days of burlesque, so that you have actual slapstick routines, comedy routines, juggling, acrobatics, and the old classic strippers. well, apparently, word of the Brother Bone story came out, right? And Daniel and Eric were talking to some of the people involved with this burlesque company. And apparently, some of the girls heard about the bordello scene and have volunteered to be extras.
That is excellent. Huh.
Oh, I think so. I think it's charming. I think it's phenomenal. I mean, somebody up there likes us, buddy. I really mean that.
Well, right. And to be honest, I'm going to jump in here and say, I've always been a little skeptical about whether this is going to be worthwhile, or whether this is going to get made, or but I think I finally was completely convinced when the two guys jumped on board to do the full bore orchestra. The orchestra score for the movie that will do just tons of addition to the feel of this movie, because these guys know how to do it. They know how to do it right. It's going to have the right feel. That's gonna go a long way to making this a worthwhile film to make. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and then I've also appreciated the fact that your restraint has been most welcome. I think that's why you and I work together so well as a partnership and a team. I have a tendency to be the guy who goes off half-cocked, and you're the guy who anchors things. And I think between us, we understand and respect, there are times for enthusiasm, and there are times to sit down and be realistic and look at the cold clinical facts.
Good. During the discussions over,
so effective a team,
right? Yeah, during the discussions of this stuff we were going to offer up for the Kickstarter, I would always jump in with, to be the devil's advocate here, and I would throw something in, and everybody go, well, yeah, that's kind of a good point, and then things would I wouldn't necessarily go 100% my way, but at the same time, you guys could have gone off on a wild tangent, and then probably it wouldn't have gone so well. So I played the devil's advocate pretty well sometimes. So I think in that way we do make a good team. But yeah, you have been like a little kid in a candy shop ever since they first started talking about doing this movie, and I've always been, that'll be really cool if it happens, but. I'm holding my excitement in reserve until I'm pretty much convinced it's going to happen. Well, I'm almost there.
All right.
So yeah,
I love hearing, pal.
I am excited, but I'm getting more excited as it becomes more real. So so we need to go on to the next one, and I guess that's your
number
turn.
6. Optimistically, we have found a makeup artist who is, like everyone we talk to, excited to work on this film. A major horror fan, she is a graduate of the Joe Blasco School of Makeup, and got excited when we contacted her about the possibilities of the project. We are finalizing her rates and schedule now, and will announce her name when it is confirmed.
That's cool.
And, yeah, I mean, this has been the thing. I mean, a lot of their friends that they went to film school with over the years, and other professional people in the Seattle area, word of mouth has spread on this project, and this is the kind of feedback that's happening and coming their way. Okay, Rob, take the last one.
Okay. It's number 7. And in parentheses, he says, so, Ron and Rob, since you two are the ones who got Jeff Herndon to come aboard, you should probably tell the story. End of parentheses. Through the efforts of Ron Fortier, we are beyond excited to have Jeff Herndon as the official poster artist for the movie. As it turns out, all 4 of us, Ron, Rob, Eric, and Daniel, love the old-fashioned hand-painted movie posters and naturally wanted one for our film. The poster will also be used as the cover for the DVD release.
Yeah, and again, that was part and parcel of what happened this past Saturday, Rob, at the Free Comic Book Day event, because Jeff Herndon is a local here in Fort Collins, and one of my earliest friends to meet when Valerie and I moved out here, and I started this little informal gathering of creative artists and writers, and Jeff was one of the first people I met, and we hit it off. And Jeff's actually done several Airship 27 covers for us. He did a Jim Anthony cover for us, and he did the first Sergeant Janice cover for us, based on Jim Beard's character, Sergeant Janice, the Spirit Breaker.
Right.
So the thing is, Jeff's career in the 7 years that I've known him, Rob, from he had a day job, and he was doing his art on the side, and he was going to shows and art shows and whatever. And 7 years ago, married his wife, Jamie. And Jamie became the little fire spark plug, Rob, who also became his manager, okay?
Yeah.
And ultimately said, you know what, we're going to make you a commercial artist. You're going to live off your art, and you're going to start doing, some great things. And you know what? She made it happen for her. She's a smart girl. And within the last few years, Jeff has become one of the most called upon artists to do paperback covers. He's recently done several for best-selling New York Times writer Kevin Anderson and other people. His own website, and you can find him online, people, and I recommend, please go there, www.jeffherndon.com. Jeff is a student of the old type of airbrushing painters and graphic illustrators from the golden days of Hollywood, very much in line with the popular Drew Sturzman type of posters, where they actually do graphic art for the posters. Amazing collages like you saw in the old Indiana Jones posters, the old Star Wars posters. So when all of us were talking about the campaign, I had in the back of my mind that we should have an official poster, and that poster should reflect that old school, just like we're doing with the store. We wanted to have a classic poster, and I knew Jeff was the guy. So that was one of my goals at Free Comic Book Day, Rob, to find some time to get away with Jeff for a few minutes. I approached him at the end of the show. I lucked out. We actually ran into each other in the parking lot, and I pulled him aside, and we started talking a little bit about the movie, what we were doing, and I asked if there was any way possible he could join the team and create that poster we're looking for. Rob, he was thrilled. He was excited. He was over the top. And so within, we shook hands on it. It's a done deal. Jeff's excited. We literally put out a press release over the weekend, and that is huge. Believe me, when people see what this guy can do and what we're going to have it's again, everything what you're talking about, Rob, everything involved with this movie is a class act. From the way the guys are producing it, to the special effects, to the score, now to the art and the illustrations that are going to accompany it. You had done tons of beautiful character sketches. The auditions begin in another week. It's just phenomenal, and it's like a roller coaster ride. I'm super anxious to get the campaign funding up there and get this ball really in motion. Yeah.
And we're coming to the end of our hour.
Yep.
We have, it's almost exactly an hour that we've been doing this tonight.
Yeah, so anything you want to add before we sign off, amigo?
No, I mean, we talked about Planet Comic-Con, and I want to thank all the fans that came by the table at the show. I met a few new faces, and I saw a bunch of folks that had come by my table before. I congratulate the folks from Planet Comic-Con for putting on another tremendous show, and I hopefully will be back there again next year.
Okay, and I've got one final thing that I want to add.
Okay.
On Free Comic Book Day, a gentleman named John Helmer, who runs a comic book thing called Lucky Comics online, as a website, released an 8-page Brother Bones primer. It's a digital comics, folks. Again, 8 pages, illustrated by Flavio Silva. It has 2 covers, one by Flavio and one from Rob here, okay? It is available to anyone who wants a copy for free. Simply go to www.luckycomics.com, and you'll be able to download that 8-page Brother Bones little primer retelling his origin story.
Yep.
And that's it, my friend. Another super episode. Thanks for everybody. Sorry we didn't have time for questions this month. But again, as you can see, Rob and I had a lot of things that we wanted to get across. Thank you again for listening. Rob, go ahead and say good night to our loyal fans.
Okay, just say one thing. If you do have questions, send them in. We always love questions. But as Ron says, the end of our hour has come. And this is Rob Davis, Chief Engineer on Airship 27, saying so long.
And as Captain Ron is happy to say, down ship.
Best Pulp Novel went to Van Plexico for Sentinels Volume 9 Dark Crusade from White Rocket Books.
Attention. FAB Banquet. Attention.
Okay, Sparky can take that out.
Yeah,
we'll give him
cut that out, Sparky.
Yeah, that's some notifications from my computer. We'll tell Sparky to cut that out. So, okay, I'm going to go back into it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This has been a Gonzo Goose production.